Hey guys, Ray Rougeau here, and you're listening to InYourHeadOnline.com. Tune in every week, and you never know who you're going to hear. Take care, guys.
All right, we're back. Welcome to In Your Head Wrestling Radio. I am the internet icon, handsome Jackie Jones, along with my right-hand man.
1-inch biceps, the power goat. Bah, how about that?
Not too bad. I think there could be a little more power there. And the man all the way from the UK.
Barbarossa W. Richards. Potato Man.
Oh, man. And joining us right off the bat, he's probably wondering what he's gotten himself into. We got Raymond Rougeau on the line. Welcome to In Your Head.
How you doing?
Doing good.
Pretty good.
Everybody out there, if you guys want to call in and ask him a question personally, the number is 508-644-8503. And if you call in, just be quiet and wait for us to call. So, how you doing? Are you involved in wrestling at all anymore?
Actually, no. I've been retired. I retired from the wrestling ring in '89 when I quit the WWE. And then I became commentator for them. I was doing the French broadcasting, English broadcasting. What I was doing in French was aired in France, Switzerland, Belgium, Africa, and also in Quebec. So I did that from '89 until 2002. And then in February 2002, then I was completely retired. And since then, well, I've been doing a lot of fishing, hunting, and I'm a city councilor where I live.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. What?
Last night we had our monthly meeting.
Oh, okay. I'll let everybody know, Viva la France, because I was told it was Bastille Day today.
Bastille Day, exactly.
Excellent. No, do you miss being part of the wrestling business?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. You know what the fun point is? I enjoyed the business a lot, but I was tired of the traveling. Because back in our days when I was with the WWE, I used to get home only 5 days a month. So, when you're on the road 25 days a month, it gets old after a while. You're never home. You're living in a suitcase. And I think that's the most difficult part. Actually, that's one of the main reasons why I retired from the business, just because of the traveling. It was I was overdosed on traveling.
You see somebody calling here in the background. 418 area code. Who is that?
Oh, that's in Quebec.
Caller, what's your name? Calling in from Quebec. Do you have a name? All right. I think.
Does he speak English?
I don't know. I heard French in the background when he was speaking.
Yeah, he might be a little scared. He's talking right here.
Maybe. Yeah, so basically, that's why I left, because of the traveling. And then when I did the commentating, well, I didn't have to travel as much because I was doing the shows in studio in Stamford at the WWE headquarters. Mm-hmm. And so we used to record the shows there. So once every 2 weeks, I'd do 2 shows. I'd fly down. I'm a pilot and I have my own plane. So I'd fly down to White Plains, New York, go in studio, record my 2 shows, and then fly home, and I was off 2 weeks. So that suited me fine.
Yeah. I was actually told you brought up earlier you like to fish and hunt, that you're a hunting buddy with the Hands of Stone, Ronnie Garvin.
Stone, exactly. Ronnie Garvin, I took him up moose hunting with me before. And actually we were talking this spring because I stop at his place every year. He lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. And every year when I go down to Florida, I stop by. And in the summer, he normally always comes up and spends a week at my place. And we were talking about going way up north to caribou hunting together.
Really?
That's the project that we're gonna do at one point.
Yeah. No, I always grew up thinking Ron Garvin was like a Southern guy from Atlanta.
Yeah.
And,
no, he's originally from Quebec.
Yeah.
He's from the Gaspé area when he was a kid. Then they moved to Montreal. And I think he left on the road when he was 16 or 17 years old. He went down to Boston, and from there he pursued his career in the United States. And he's been in the States ever since.
Yeah. Now, you grew up, in the famous Rougeau family. Was like wrestling, you always knew that's what you wanted to do? Or
because, in our family, we were 3 boys, 2 girls. And the boys were always wrestling together. And my dad, he was always wrestling with us. And I used to follow him around during the summer when we weren't in school. I used to go to the arenas all over the province and watch them wrestle. And I remember at one point, so I grew up in the business. My great uncle was a wrestler. My uncle was a wrestler. My father was a wrestler. And at one point, my dad said, he asked me if I wanted to wrestle. I was 13 years old. So at that point, he said, and I said yes. So he said, well, if you follow my guidelines, you listen to me. He says, at 16, you'll be a professional wrestler. And he was true to his word. At 16 years and 3 months old, I had my first match. And so, you know, like I said, it's been my whole life. So I was a kid. I was in around wrestling arenas all the time. And then at 16, I was a professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm. Did they were you always kind of smarting up to the business? You knew what it was about, or was there a time your dad told you,
no,
how the wrestling business ran?
It's funny because back then the business was very well protected.
Right.
And my dad smartened me up the day I started going to the gym to learn how to wrestle. So I had been training on weights for 2.5 years before he even smartened me up. And because I started in the gym, I started training when I was 13 years old. And at 15, I started in the gym for wrestling, and that's when he smartened me up when I was 15.
Yeah. Did anybody, in school, did they ever treat you differently because you were in the wrestling family?
Yes and no. I mean, I had, my friends that I hung around with for them, it was just normal, I was their friend, and it wasn't like Raymond Rougeau, the wrestler. I was their friend. But when I started wrestling, because I was still in school when I started wrestling, so they were watching me on TV every week, and then I was sitting in class with them. Some people did all of a sudden have a different outlook, because, he's on TV, stuff like that. It did impress some people. Also, some teachers, they wanted to arm wrestle me all the time.
Did you ever take them up on it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me? That was the only chance I got to get even with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that was fun. Because actually, I was pretty strong. At 16 years old, I was bench pressing 300 pounds.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was training 7 days a week. I mean, you got 365 days in a year. I remember there was one year I worked out 364 days. There's one day I missed because I had a bad cold. My dad came back and he says, "Did you work out last night?" I said, "No, I was sick." He says, "You're lazy. You could have worked out." I remember that crushed me because I worked out 364 days that year. But so I was pretty strong, and I had a good time. And at school, it was it was like a little kick to beat the teachers too. Like even my gym teachers, when you're 16 years old and you're beating your teachers arm wrestling, they're all grown up. You get kind of a kick out of it.
Oh yeah. I thought maybe you'd let one of them win or something so you can get an A.
No. No, couldn't do that. I'd rather take a B and beat them.
We got Adam on the line. Where are you calling in from, Adam?
Boston.
Okay, cool. Near me.
All right. What was your favorite city to work in and your least favorite city to wrestle in?
Okay, my favorite city and my least favorite?
Yes.
Oh, well, my favorite city normally it is Montreal, because that's where I was from. And when we came to the Montreal Forum, I mean the crowd was absolutely mind blowing. And it's normal. It's like a hockey team that plays in their hometown. They get a much bigger response. Well, us wrestling out of Montreal, it was always a thrill. But besides that, I enjoyed a lot of the major cities though, because I was very proud, let's say, to wrestle in Madison Square Garden in New York, to go to the Boston Garden, to go to Los Angeles, to all the big cities, even in Paris and in Tokyo and all that. There was always a certain, satisfaction, a certain pride of saying, yeah, I was there, But favorite city, I'd say Montreal. I didn't really have a least favorite city. Because we were always very well treated everywhere where we went. But let's say the tour that I enjoyed the least was when I went to Japan in 1975. I was 20 years old, and I was there for 2 months. I found that pretty difficult because the interpreter that we had following us, he was supposed to make our life easy, to translate for us, to get us to check in at the hotel and this and that. And his parents were killed in Hiroshima. So he did not like Caucasians. And so he made our life pretty difficult. So the tour was a little difficult. So I could say that tour in Japan I did not like.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for calling in, Adam.
Yep. All right, bye.
Now, I don't know this because, I'm an American, but in other parts of Canada, are people from Quebec, like, are they booed as heels, or did it not matter?
Yeah, because there was always the English-French little controversy,
Mm-hmm.
So when you come from Quebec right away, they say, oh, you're a Frenchman. So that created, let's say, a little distance. So, like when we went and wrestled in the prairies, like out in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, Alberta, Vancouver, we had a lot of heat out there. So, which was fine, because when we became the fabulous Rougeau brothers, and we were heels, that was great.
Oh, yeah. I was a big fan of that.
Actually, that was the most fun I ever had in the business.
Yeah.
When we turned heel, because as a heel, you can be a lot more creative.
Mm-hmm.
Babyface, well, you have to stay in certain guidelines, but as a heel, you could be a hell of a lot more creative. And, and also, it was very intense, because when we turned heel, we became, within a couple of months, we became the most hated team in the WWF back then.
Uh-huh.
So that was for me, was quite an achievement, and it was a lot of fun, because when you went out, the crowd wasn't, well, it kind of, in between. Some people cheered you, some people booed you. You went out, it was absolutely unanimous. Everybody hated your guts and wanted to kill you.
Right.
So and it's a lot of fun. The point in the business is you want to be hated or loved. You don't want to be caught in between.
Mm-hmm. You have to get some type of reaction.
What did you think about the All American Boys theme song? It's definitely one of my favorite of all time.
Oh, yeah, you have good taste. Personally, I enjoyed it very much. Actually, a lot of the words to that, we put the words to that. Jimmy Hart wrote the music and did the music part, and he wrote the English wording in it, but it's my brother and I that did the French wording in it. And actually, I liked it. I thought it was pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we did record it ourselves, so there was a little pride there. And another thing that was fun, we did it in Sun Studios, which is in Memphis. In that same studio, Elvis and Johnny Cash did some recordings also. So there was a lot of history to that studio. So now we can also say the fabulous Rougeau brothers recorded there.
I think Inter had a question from the board about the song.
Yeah, Steven from Toronto, he wants to know, who is the better singer, you or your brothers Jacques?
Oh, if you're asking me, I'll say it's me.
When we had Jimmy Hart on, I'm pretty sure that he put over that song as being one of his favorites.
Did he?
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. We had a great time with Jimmy. He was a super nice guy, very professional, and I had a really wonderful time working with him. And and I think he appreciated our professionalism also. That's why we got along so well. And we had a lot of fun when we did those recordings, too. It wasn't just like, oh, well, we're going to record a song. We had a blast doing it. So Jimmy Hart's a super nice guy.
Yeah. I think that's what everyone says. I've never really heard anyone say, something bad about Jimmy Hart.
No. I've never heard it either. You can't. The guy is just a great guy. And he's very devoted to the people he works with also. He's a very loyal person and devoted.
Mm-hmm.
So all I have are nice things to say about Jimmy.
No, well, actually, when they put you guys together as the fabulous Rougeau brothers, was it always to turn you guys heel, or was it like a decision made because how the fans reacted to you guys?
Oh, yeah, well, originally when we joined the WWF, we were in as baby faces. Mm-hmm. We were there about, I'd say about a year, roughly a year as baby faces. And we had mixed reactions. So the idea to become the fabulous Rougeau brothers and to turn heel was based on fan reaction in the United States. Vince saw a lot of potential in us, and the thing is in the United States, the Americans are very patriotic, and they did not. So it was difficult for some people to cheer for wrestlers that came from Canada, especially from Quebec, because you spoke French, to come and wrestle against American wrestlers and to cheer for you over them. That was difficult for them to swallow. So we were caught in a situation where 38% of the people were telling, were yet screaming or had signs like "Frogs go home," then you had 60 or 10% of the people that would not want to like us because we're from Canada and we're French speaking, but appreciated our talents as wrestlers, so they kind of liked us. And then you had the rest that liked us. So we were caught, 30% did not like us because we were from here. 10% were in between, and then you had 60% that liked us. But now you're caught in a no man's land. You're caught in between. So that is not, like I said, it's not an area where you want to be. And it's funny because Vince, all of a sudden, we had a message from one of the agents that Vince wanted to meet with us in Stanford. So he sent us a ticket, and we flew to Stanford to have a meeting with Vince. And it's funny because 2-3 days before our meeting, my brother and I were talking, and we said, well, maybe we should turn heel, But it was a big thing because, I was a babyface all my life and all the family history and this and that. Mm. I was juggling with that idea. But we said, that would probably be the best idea, and it'd probably be a lot of fun. And then when we got there with our meeting with Vince, well, he's the one that he came out, look, guys, he says, I want to throw something at you and tell me how you feel about it. So we said, okay. And then he said, how would you feel about turning heel? And my brother and I looked at each other and laughed because then we told him, it's funny, we just mentioned it a couple of days ago. So that's Vince's idea to come out with the fabulous Rougeau brothers, to call us fabulous, and also for us to come out with the little American flags.
Uh-huh.
That was Vince's idea. And I was a little skeptical because he says, you'll come out, and he says, you can come out and just really lay it on thick how you love the United States and how you love the American people and this and that. I said, well, Vince, how are they going to hate us if we if we come out and tell them that we love them? He says, you lay it on so thick, they're going to see through you, and they're going to say you're full of it, and they're going to hate your guts. He says, trust me. He says, within a couple of months, they're going to hate your guts. I said, okay, and I trusted Vince a lot. And I said, okay, I'll take your word for it, but I said, personally, I'm not quite sure. And, but we went with it, and we saw an immediate reaction when we started with that. And he did it, he also did it over like a 2-month period. Not like we come out and all of a sudden we're heels. Like, what's the reason of all of a sudden? You were babyface, now you're heel. Mm-hmm. We did it slowly. We started mentioning that we were thinking of moving to the United States of America, and then we were telling the people to write in, and, the state that wants us the most, we would consider moving there. And so we did it over a 2-month period, and after about 3 months, we were the most hated team in the WWE. It was great. It was, like I said, it was seen further down the road than I had seen.
Yeah. Did you get along with Vince? Was he easy to talk to?
Super guy. I have all the respect in the world for Vince. I know some guys, have their own opinion. Some guys don't like him and whatnot. But personally, I only have nice things to say about Vince. And even when I left the World Wrestling Federation, I said, Vince, all I have to do is say thank you for everything. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm retiring today. It's because, I already had investments before going to the WWF and all that, but the 3.5 years that I was there as a wrestler and then as a commentator, it just, like I said, secured everything. And I said, Vince, thank you very much. I said, it's been a wonderful opportunity. And even on a personal level, because when I became commentator, let's say when I was a wrestler, we didn't see Vince as much. He didn't mingle much with the wrestlers. He had, with Hulk and Randy and all that, but we didn't get to talk to him that much. When I became a commentator, that's when I had a lot more interaction with Vince, because then I would meet with Vince. He would tell me, like the interviews. I was doing live interviews on the ring at one point. Mm-hmm. So, he'd go over what, the direction he would like to go with the interview and this and that. So I spent a lot more time with him and got to know him a lot better. And even there were times where I had breakfast, with him. We'd be at the hotel. I come down and say, hey, Ray, join me, So we became good friends. And like I said, Vince respected me a lot. I respect Vince a lot. And we got along very well. And he's always been a man of his word with me. And I was the same. I was always loyal to him. In the days when all the boys were jumping ship from the WWF over to WCW,
right.
I had been approached by them also, and they made a very lucrative offer, and I turned it flat down because I'm a loyal person. I said, Vince is very good to me, and I said, I will not double-cross him. And I remember at one point my brother went to WCW, and some of his agents were questioning my loyalty. They said, "Do you think you can trust Ray?" And I knew they'd think that, so I went to see Vince. We were in San Antonio at a Survivor Series when Chuck Norris was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Vince, I'd like to speak with you for a minute." So we were in the basement of the, going down into the building, and there were some big pillars there. And I said, "Vince, I know some people are going to maybe wonder about my loyalty towards the company, but I said, you said, you see this column right here that's holding this building?" He says, "Yep." Well, I said, "I'm as solid for you here in the WWF as that column is for this building." And he says, "Ray," he says, "I wish I had more guys like you." And he gave me a big hug, and he said, "Thanks a lot." And I told him, I said, I was approached, and I said, I told him, "Don't even call me again." So, and Vince appreciated that, and he was very good to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I have only nice things to say about Vince.
Yeah. Now, I didn't know this actually till we were having you on tonight, that you used to tag with Pat Patterson, and you guys actually held tag titles at one point?
Yep. In 1980, Pat and I were tag team champions here in Quebec.
Mm-hmm. Now, how important do you think he was to, a lot of WWF success?
Who, Pat?
Yeah, just behind the scenes, because I've always heard, he was in charge of a lot of, like, the different finishes and matches.
Well, Pat is a creative genius. Behind the scenes, he would work with Vince. He was the booker with Vince for a long time, and, he worked till 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Vince would call Pat at any time, and they'd go over ideas, and Pat always had very, very good ideas. Pat has excellent psychology in the ring, of how a match should be built, an angle should go, and Pat lives for the business. So all he did all the time was think business, wrestling, angles, and this and that. So I think Pat contributed a lot, and Vince recognized that and used, Pat to the max as far as that went, and they were both good for each other. But Pat was very instrumental in a lot of people getting success in the WWE and WWF. Even a lot of the boys would go see Pat at times, sit, and run through ideas with him and ask Pat for advice.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the guys.
Yeah, I know, like, Bret Hart has always said that, and I think
Always.
even Steve Austin, and,
Yeah, always. Pat is very respected in the business and always had a good head. Even and I learned a lot from him when we were tag team also. Listening to his psychology. And at one point, we were tag team partners, but then he turned heel on me. And then we worked an angle. We worked a program here, and we had a couple of hour-long matches, him and I. And it was a pleasure working an hour with him because he never ran out of ideas and things to do.
Mm-hmm. I actually, on WWE Classics, they show, like, old house shows from the 80s and 70s.
Yep.
And you watch some of them, and I know it's a different era, and some of the matches are pretty much like a bunch of punches and bear hugs and, like, one bump, and the match is over. Yeah. And then when you see a Pat Patterson on that same card, his match, it's they're flying all over the ring. It's much more exciting, and you can see how much, like, he stuck out from a lot of the people at the time. Yeah, absolutely. No, Pat was in a class of his own, and like I said, he was. Well, it's not haphazard that he wound up being Vince's right-hand man. Mm-hmm. Vince always went, like when Vince took over, let's say, when he went worldly with the World Wrestling Federation, when he took over, let's say, the whole planet, the way he did it, he went and got the best, in every territory. And he surrounded himself with the proper people. So, like I said, it's not haphazard that he went and surrounded himself by Pat Patterson. Mm-hmm. We got a couple of callers here. We got The Dream. Okay.
How's it going tonight, fellas?
Good.
Good. Ray, I got a question for you. It may be tough to answer, but it's concerning the greatest wrestler of all time, Tom Billington. I'd like to know exactly what went down that night where, in his book, he claims that you guys, both you and your brother, sucker punched him with a pair of brass knuckles.
Right.
Why everybody else, his buddies, had walked away.
Right.
You want to tell us about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I don't think he's the greatest wrestler that there ever was. There were a lot of great wrestlers. You could name Bret Hart, Ric Flair. He was a great wrestler, but I can't say he was the greatest. He was very good at what he did. he was a hard worker. I had a lot of respect for him in the ring as far as a wrestler. What happened is very easy. A few days before, he had sucker punched my brother.
Right.
We were in Miami, Florida. He's the one that sucker punched my brother there. So that was a rib that Kurt Hennig had started. He had told my brother that Dynamite had pulled a rib on him in his bag while we were in the ring. He went and told Dynamite that my brother was going to go to the office and stooge on him. And he pumped both sides up. He probably didn't think that things would turn to this magnitude, but he thought it was a funny rib. So he was pumping my brother. He was pumping Dynamite. So anyways, it was our last day off. We had our 3 days home. Our first day, we're back in Miami. My brother's sitting in the dressing room playing cards with Kurt Hennig. All of a sudden, who comes in? Dynamite walks in with Davey Boy, with Bad News Brown, with Jim Neidhart, Bret Hart, Don Morocco. The whole crew walks in.
Right.
Oh, I don't even pay any attention to this. No big deal. So then Dynamite comes up behind my brother, slaps him in the back of the head, pow, and then he calls him the stooge and this and that. My brother gets up, what's going on? And we did not have a clue of what was going on. I'm saying, what the heck's going on here? And then Dynamite punched him in the face, and then, so that, anyway, that wound up in the schmoz there, and then they were taken apart. So that night, and like I said, so, some of his buddies thought it was real funny and all that. Okay, so that stayed like that. The next day, we didn't talk about it. The next day, I told my brother, I said, there has to be a comeback here. And I said, and I was injured at that point. I had injured my leg about a week before, 10 days before, with Jim Neidhart and Bret Hart out in the Western Canada. And it took, so I was like making it to the shows, but I couldn't get into the ring. I couldn't walk. So I told my brother, I said, look, there has to be a comeback on this. So I said, either it's you or either it's me. I said, if it's me, well, it's going to have to take a while because I have to heal my leg so I can stand up. But I said, there has to be a comeback here. And he says, no, I agree. And he says, it has to be me. He says, I'm the one that he sucker punched. He says, I want to do it. So I said, okay, fine. So I said, anyways, I'll back you on that. So a few days later, and in the meantime, Dynamite was playing his bully self the way he is, going into the dressing rooms and, always passing wise remarks and this and that. And, he's thinking he was very funny. Well, we just laid low for a couple of days because he wouldn't go anywhere without his 10 bodyguards around him. So we left it as is. And then a few days later, we were in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was at TV. Vince had heard there had been some problems. And he also heard, because it was told, Pat told him, he says, Vince, this isn't over. He says, I know the Rougeaus, and he says, it's not over. So Vince wanted, and it's funny because Dino Bravo told Dynamite too, because Bravo told me that after. I told him, he says, Dynamite, this isn't over. He says, I know Raymond, and he says, I know the Rougeaus, and he says, this isn't over. Dynamite says, the heck with them. He says, I beat them up, and they're this and that, and they're no good, and blah, blah, blah. He said, I'm telling you, it's not over. Anyway, so he thought he was, it was all over. So anyway, Pat talked to Vince. So we were at a TV taping, so everybody's there early, and that's where we decided the comeback was going to be. So we were, my brother and I were sitting next to the ring, and then Vince came out to see. He says, hey guys, how you doing? I said, doing fine, thank you. So he says, I have a meeting with Hulk and stuff. He says, after, he says, I want to have a word with you guys. So I said, no problem. So then my brother says, well, he says, we got to do it now because he says, if, Vince is probably going to say if there's comeback, this and that, everybody's fired, and all that. Right. So he said, before he talks to us, we have to, it has to happen. So we headed toward the cafeteria. All the guys were there. On the way there, it was funny because I bumped into Pat Patterson. So he's going, hey guys, how you doing, and all that. So I said, fine, and so I'm talking to Pat, and my brother went and looked in the cafeteria, and then all of a sudden his Dynamite's bodyguards were coming back one at a time. We saw we saw Davey Boy come back, and we saw Don Morocco, we saw Jim Neidhart, and we saw, all those guys were coming back. So well, good thing. There'll be less guys. And I told my brother, I said, you do what you got to do. And I said, if somebody interferes, I'll take care of them. So I'm talking to Pat, and he's talking to me, and at one point, Dynamite's coming. And then it's funny because Pat says, look, are you listening to me? Because I guess I wasn't answering to what he was asking, or my mind was elsewhere because my brother had just said in French, he says, I'm going to do it. So I'm not looking, and I'm looking at Pat. So all of a sudden I hear, bang. So my brother, decked him, nailed him, and knocked his teeth out, and that's the way that went.
With the brass knuckles?
There were no brass knuckles.
Okay, all right.
There were no brass.
That's what he claims in the book.
Yeah, I know. Well, he claims that he beat everybody up, and he claims, he claims a lot of it.
Right.
No, it's funny because a couple of guys showed me the book, and I looked at it, and I don't recognize the story in there. So he could say whatever he likes. It's his story. But if I wrote a book, it would not be the same story as his.
Right. If you're going to get punched out, you might as well say it was brass knuckles.
Yeah, you might as well.
Thanks for calling in, Dream.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate your honesty. Thanks.
No problem. No problem.
Let's see. Let's go Jason on the line.
Hey, Ray. Big fan, seen you since I was a kid in WWE. I got a question. You were part of the big event in Toronto at their baseball stadium, and you were also part of WrestleMania 3. Yeah, and you were at WrestleMania 3, and you were wrestling in front of two really big crowds for WWE at that time. What was the feeling like between both shows, really, with the fans and being out there in front of as many people as you were?
Honestly, those are two very intimidating events because at the Silver Dome in Pontiac, there were 93,000 people. We were at the building at noon that day because there was already a lineup out at noon for the show that evening. And I walked up to the top of the building, and I looked down at the ring. The ring looked like it was 1 square inch when you're at the top, and there were giant screens around. I was looking at this is unbelievable. And also at the CNE Stadium, there were 67,000 people, I think, that were there. And same thing. You look, and it's like an ocean of people. Those were the two biggest crowds that I ever wrestled in front of. And the one in Toronto wasn't as intimidating as the Silver Dome because it was an outdoor show. So you let's say, lost a bit the impression of the magnitude of it because you had an open sky above. Where, at the Silver Dome, it was a closed building, so you were enclosed in a closed building with 93,000 people. I mean, that's the population of many cities, so it was very impressive and something that you never forget. I'm proud to have been a part of it.
Thanks for calling. Did you have anything else, Jason?
No, I didn't. I appreciate you answering my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for calling.
Barbie?
La Blue from the chat room wants to know if you had a favorite tag team to wrestle against.
Okay. Yeah, actually, the favorite tag team I had to wrestle against were the Garvin brothers. There was rugged Ronnie Garvin, the Hands of Stone, and his stepson, Jimmy Garvin. I wrestled them for about 6 months in Quebec. Here we had done an angle, and we sold out everywhere. And I could say they were probably one of the favorite teams I wrestled against. I enjoyed very much. We had a good run with Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart also. When I came into the WWE for about 7 months straight, we wrestled them everywhere. That was a good time also. But actually, it just flashed on me. One team I could not forget that we had a very good run with, and that was very pleasant to work with, and because we had exciting matches and it was very fulfilling, were the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. I have to say those two were. It was a real pleasure wrestling with them because every night it's funny because they put us on last because nobody could follow us, so they put us on last every night. So which said a lot.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned both those teams, Star Foundation and the Rockers, because Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels went on to become huge stars and the world champion of WWF. Obviously they were talented guys, and you could see that. But did you ever think that they would go on to be such big single stars?
No, actually, I didn't think it, but I'm not surprised because, like I said, both men are extremely talented, And then also, like I said, like they always say, right time at the right place. If you would have put, let's say, Shawn Michaels 10 years before that, he may have gone nowhere. But at that point, when Vince made Shawn a star, it's when there was the big competition between the WWF and WCW, and Vince had lost a lot of his stars. So Vince created his own stars, but he needed somebody with talent, and Shawn is extremely talented, and so was Brett. So, like I said, right place, right time, and they have the talent to accomplish the mission. So, more power to them.
A French fan sent this in. He wants to know, I guess there's a story about the fan fest that recently took place in France, and you punched Daivari?
Yes.
What was the story there?
The thing was, the match was Daivari against Sylvain Grenier. And at one point, I was doing the commentating. I was invited for the fan festival, and I went there, took pictures, signed autographs, and all that. And they asked me if I'd do, like, when I was doing the French broadcasting, they asked me if I'd broadcast the show live for the people there. So I said, yeah, no problem. It'll be fun. And so I did that. And at the end of the match, well, then Daivari, he came out and he started, picking on me. And, he was upset because he lost the match and all this, and came out and then started pushing me, and I got up, and then he pushed me, and then went to swing. I blocked the punch and punched him back. So, but that was all cool.
Yeah. Was that a lot of fun doing the fan festival in France?
I enjoyed it very much. It was very touching for me to see how, let's say, my stay in the WWE and WWF had touched people, because a lot of people there, because I was commentator for 13 years after quitting the wrestling there. So a lot of people grew up with the voice, the sound of my voice on the show every week and my commentaries. And, and some people, local wrestlers, there are wrestlers because of the influence that they say I had. So a lot of their testimonies were very touching. They came and they said, I wrestled today because of you. Let's say you transmitted the passion that I have today, and it was very touching. There were some people that were actually brought their kids. Their kids had never seen me because they were too young, but the father was there. He says, this guy here, he says, I used to watch him wrestle. You watch wrestling today. He used to wrestle when I was younger, and all that. And the kid was looking at me with big eyes, But it was touching, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Same person wants to know what are your thoughts on PCO, Pierre Carwillette.
Okay, well, he's a nice guy. I know the guy personally. Mm-hmm. He's a nice guy, has a lot of talent. I think he could have done more in the World Wrestling Federation. I think maybe he had some bad influences at time, made some wrong decisions. It's too bad, which maybe shortened his stay in the WWE. But he's very talented and very entertaining to watch wrestle. He still does some indie shows. Mm-hmm. And young guy, a lot of potential, but I don't think he ever made it to his potential.
Yeah. Yeah, we had him on actually about a year ago today. Really good interview.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Hey, very nice guy. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I don't think he made it to the height that he could have made it in this business.
Yeah, because he's a pretty big guy and he can move around really well for his size.
Very, very agile, very athletic, and very exciting to watch wrestle. He was a very good wrestler, but he had a little, little run-in with Kevin Nash, mm-hmm. and they had some differences, and I think it may have gave him a bad rep in the States, so I think that didn't help him. But like I said, you can look at the past and say, well, if I would have known, I would have done things different, but sometimes you have to assume the consequences of your decisions at the time.
Right. Now the Survivor Series matches, when they'd have 5 teams or 5 teams, were those hard to put together because you had so many people?
Actually, no, they weren't. Everybody had their spots, and you had your different spots with your guys. So you fill in a couple of spots with 1 or 2 guys, and once everybody's done that, you've got your match in there, So no, I didn't find that difficult at all.
I always really enjoyed them, especially the first couple when they had it was all tag teams. I mean, all the teams versus teams.
Yeah.
Then later on, this became a regular show.
Yeah. Things did evolve. Things changed. But no, those were good times. It was a lot of fun. And actually, when you talk about Survivor Series, when the British Bulldogs finished at the WWF, their last match was at Survivor Series, and we were in that match against the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I heard that there was some tension there, and they're afraid they would try to hurt you guys, or vice versa, since it was their last match. And
Well, so sure. Well, and the thing is, you have to understand, a lot of guys like to pump things up. So, there were a lot of guys telling us, I heard that, because there's going to be another comeback tonight. It's their last night. You better be careful, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure on the other side that they were also pumped, So everybody, I think, was a little, let's say, on the defensive with one another. But all in all, there were no problems. Everybody was professional, and and even I think it was about a month before they finished, there was a meeting at the San Francisco airport between the Bulldogs and us. We had not seen each other after that incident in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where my brother made his comeback on Dynamite. And one thing I'd like to clear out, some of the guys said, "Oh, I heard that they both jumped Dynamite, this and that." I never touched them. Okay, so I just want that fact clear. I never touched them. My brother did it on his own. And we had a meeting after that. After the Bulldogs gave their notice, Vince called a meeting with us and them at the San Francisco airport because they were flying home. They were going through San Francisco, and we were there doing TV. And Vince says, this has to stop here. And so anyway, so we had a meeting. At the end, all four of us shook hands, and we said it's over. Well, sure, I can't say we're friends. We're not friends at all. But, the things were said as they were. And we said, Dynamite said, look, I gave my word, it's over. I said, that's good enough for me. We got up, we shook hands, and that was it. We didn't speak after that. And then, like I said, we saw each other again at the Survivor Series. We had our match. And then everybody went their own separate ways.
Inchman?
Van from our message board, he was wondering who came up with the Rougeau's double team finish.
That was my brother and I. Yeah, we were thinking just to try to do something different, so that was our idea.
We got a caller here on the line. Who is this?
Joanne?
What was your name?
Joanne.
Oh, Joanne. All right, you got a question?
Yeah, I wanted to say hi to Danny Hodge.
Danny Hodge will be on in the second hour. But
he will. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. We can ask Raymond what he thinks of Danny Hodge.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So you got people calling in from everywhere and sending messages from everywhere, huh?
Yep, definitely. All over the world.
Except China.
Yeah.
Good. So this has been going on for 5 years then?
Oh, yeah. Yep, 5 years. A lot of different guests on the show.
Good. I'm going to have to start checking it.
All right.
I find it pretty interesting. I like it.
Oh.
And who you have coming up soon?
Later on tonight, we're going to have, you said Danny Hodge. We actually don't have any guests lined up for the next week, but it'll probably be somebody also from the Fan Fest that will be attending in Charlotte.
Okay. Good.
Times here. We've all different people. Probably one of our most infamous interviews was the Iron Sheik.
I can't believe it, you jabroni.
It started off well. It was Mr. Jacques, very intelligent man from the Boston area, but it didn't end up well. Do you have any Iron Sheik stories?
Who doesn't have an Iron Sheik story? No, the guy's so funny. Last year, it's funny because I went to a fan fest in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Because it's funny, I've been invited to many events like that, and I had never accepted. I always turn them down, just because I figure, God, I'm not in the business anymore, and turn the page. I'm on to a different part of my life, this and that. And the guys, some of the guys told me, this is a lot of fun. It's a different concept. There's not the pressure like when we're on the road and this and that, and it's fun. So, anyways, I finally accepted to do one in January in New Jersey. So I get there, and also I thought, it'd be fun. See some of the guys, Iron Sheik was there. So all of a sudden, so I signed pictures and, take pictures and sign autographs, stuff like that. And then when it was over, I went over and I tapped on the Sheik. So he turns around and he says, I can't believe it. He says, come here. He called the camera, come here, you jabroni. You take a picture of me and my friend, Rougeau. I can't believe they start cutting a promo. The British Bulldog thought he was tough. The Rougeau is so... And he starts cutting a whole big promo, screaming. I said, it's okay, Sheik. It's okay, thank you. But it was just funny. He said, he's tough guy, Rougeau. I can't believe it. He said, but he's a funny guy.
Oh, yeah. He's a man.
He's a card.
Cameraman, zoom in.
Oh, yeah, zoom the cameraman. Zoom the abs. And he had one big ab, you know. No, but it was a lot of fun.
Mm.
But like I said, so it was funny. I did the Fan Fest, and that was the first one I did. And then I was invited to one more last summer. And it was actually the guy that invited me to the other one in New Jersey. He's the one that organized in France. So, and he's a Frenchman, but he lives in New York. So anyways, he called me, New Jersey actually, and he talked to me about the one in France, this and that. And that's how this thing got together. And then on June 12th, I was in France for that Fan Festival, and I had a great time.
Yeah. Was it a good turnout, the one in France?
No, I can't say it was a great turnout because he had a promotional problem. See, he was out of New Jersey, and he had people that were there that were supposed to have taken care of the publicity. They were supposed to put out posters, this and that. And when he got there 3 days before, there was not one poster that was put out. None of the publicity was done. So he started running around in the last few days, trying to get this whole thing together in 3 days. Yeah. So that didn't help. But I say the show was good, and the fans, there were fans that were there. But, I mean, it could have been a huger success had the people not let him down that were supposed to take care of business over there. He was very disappointed in that. He says, you rely on people. They give you their word. They're supposed to do their things. And all of a sudden you wind up, and there was nothing done. So he says that was very difficult. But the people, that were there, it went very well. They had a great show. They had a great time. And like I told them, if ever you decide to do another one, I said I'd be glad to go back because I had a wonderful time.
Yeah. I know Brutus the Barber Beefcake was on that show.
Yes, he was there, yeah.
And you guys had a feud with the Dream Team, I believe.
Yes, with Brutus Beefcake and Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Mm-hmm. What was it like working those guys? Because it's like two different styles in the ring.
Yeah, it was different styles, and it was fine. It was okay. Like I said, you have people that you really enjoy working with, people that it's okay working with. I had no problems with them. It was very professional. It went fine. But, I don't know, like I said, it was, we were booked for a while with them. It was okay. But then like I said, if you talk about how was it working with the Rockers, like I said, that was, there were more fireworks there, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was fine. I mean, Greg Valentine was a great worker. Beefcake was a good worker. He had a good gimmick. So, and at that point, they were heels, we were baby faces. So, maybe if it would have been different, because, like I said, we were still stuck in that rut of being in the no man's land, in between. Some people liked us, some didn't. So it was hard when they would get the heat on us for us to get a lot of heat because some of the people were happy they were getting heat on us. And as far as they're concerned, you're not getting enough. Beat them up, So that's where maybe the context was different because when we worked with the Rockers, we were heels at that point, and that's when we were getting the big reaction. So if we'd been heels working against them, it might have been more fun, let's say. When we worked with them, we were in a period of where we were questioning, we have to do something here, So maybe that's why the memory isn't as vivid as it is with the Rockers, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Barbie?
Yeah, Nikhil, apologies if I didn't pronounce that correctly, from the chat room wants to know what you thought of La Resistance.
Of who?
René Dupree and Sylvain Grenier, La Resistance.
Oh, La Resistance, okay. I don't think it was, not on a personal level because I don't know. Actually, I met Sylvain Grenier when I went to France 2 weeks ago for the first time. I'd never spoken to him. But let's say on a professional level, when I watched them, that team didn't do anything for me. I think it was something that they put together kind of last minute to try to have a French thing going because there was nothing French in the WWE at that point. But I don't know. As far as workers, they were still green, or I know Sylvain was still green, so he had a lot of experience to gain. So I don't know. It didn't do anything for me.
Mm. Now, when you were doing you were doing play-by-play, or were you a color man?
I was doing the play-by-play.
Who was the color man with you?
Jean Brassard. Jean Brassard. He was living in New York. He lived in France for a while. Mm-hmm. He's a Canadian that lived in France that now lives in New York. And so he was doing the color with me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so because we had done auditions. Originally, I had Guy Auré that was there. And then he was let go by the WWF. And then they had auditions. So I had a bunch of people that spoke French came in and auditioned with me. So we did, let's say, some match descriptions. I was doing the play-by-play, them on the color. And then after we had a production meeting, and they asked me which one I preferred and this and that. And then it was unanimous with everybody. It was Jean Brassard. And I was with him for 5 years. We did it, him and I, for 5 years. So that was very good there. He actually was in France with me in June. Oh. So it was like I hadn't seen him in 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Did you did you ever did TNA ever ask you to do commentary?
TNA, no. TNA right now they have Sylvain Grenier and Marc Blondin. Mark had done on and off work with the WWF and back then and this and that. I'm not sure if he's the one that approached them or they approached him. But I know that they're like here in Quebec when TNA is shown in French, it is Marc Blondin and Sylvain Grenier that do the commentary. Mm-hmm.
Do you still watch wrestling?
Sometimes. Like where I live right now, I don't get the WWE. Mm-hmm. I get TNA. And what I do is, because I have my own gym at home, I work out at home, and I've got my TV set on. And sometimes when I'm working out, it's the wrestling show that's on, so I watch the TNA show that's on.
Mm-hmm. What's your opinions on the TNA product?
Personally, what I don't like about it is that it's like a lot of the old guys from the WWE, so it's kind of rehashing the old things again. Mm-hmm. They have potential, but they have to let go of like the Hulk Hogan's and stuff like that, Yeah. So at one point, you have to learn to say that enough is enough.
Yeah, you have to find the next Hulk Hogan or the next Steve Austin.
Exactly. Develop your own new talent. But not going to pick up, all the older guys or the guys that used to be names that don't work 30% of what they used to work, but that are living off their reputations, kind of, Mm-hmm. They have a lot of that in TNA, I find, So I think they should create new talent, So take guys that are, let's say, not necessarily the stars right now, but they have talent that they could make stars, and then have green guys come in and, build them instead of, like I said, going to get Hulk Hogan,
Mm-hmm. I think, like, if you have a couple of the older guys, there's no problem with that. But when you have so many in the same company, it just kind of makes the whole promotion just seem like, it's like a bunch of older guys and, not very...
And it's like a déjà vu. And then it's the cliques that get back together. And then all of a sudden you start seeing the same things that you saw 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Personally, I think they should develop their own new talent.
Rougeau, professional wrestler?
Yeah, 514 area code. Who are you?
It's Carl from Montreal.
Carl from Montreal.
Salut Ray, comment ça va? Yes, I do.
C'est qui?
Good. Ray, just a quick question. What are your memories of Owen Hart?
Owen Hart, great guy, super nice guy, and he's the guy. I had a boxing match with Owen Hart in 1996 at the Bell Center in Montreal. It was. I was
there.
Yeah, and it was a real pleasure. I mean, the guy's a professional. He was a great wrestler. A lot of potential. Very, very talented. But on a personal level, a super, super nice guy. I don't know one person in the business that could say one bad word about Owen Hart. He's a super nice guy. I miss him a lot.
Thanks for calling in, Carl.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Barbie, did you have a last question?
Yeah, Eric Smith from, I think it's the Facebook page, he asked the question. Was there any reason why you never got an action figure with the WWE?
Where I never was?
Got an action figure.
Sorry, say that again.
Was there any reason why you never got an action figure?
Like a doll.
Oh, okay. I guess the thing was, because I left prematurely from the wrestling career. I was there for 3.5 years. When we became the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers and we became the most hated team in the company, we wrestled for about 2 years that way. And then after that, I told Vince that I wanted to retire from the ring. Vince, at that point, he said, Ray, he says, you can't leave. You're too young. He says, I've only just begun with you guys. He says, I've got tons of things I want to do with you guys. He wanted to push us on top, give us the belts, make dolls, do this, do that, and he wanted to give us the world to stay. The thing at that point, I said, Vince, if you would have told me this a year ago, I would have been thrilled. But I said, right now, I said, you have to understand. I said, when I was in the ring, I always gave 100%. I said, right now I'm starting to feel I don't want to give 100% anymore. I'm getting tired of the injuries and being on the road all the time. And I said, if I can't give 100%, I want to leave. And I said, financially, I don't need this anymore. I said, you have to understand, here we're on a wheel, like we're gone 25 days a month. And I said, my life is going by. And I said, at one point I'm looking, what am I doing here? I said, I just want to go home. I want to get off the wheel. I want to go home. I said, I hope you can understand that. So, but at that point, he wanted to offer, he said, give me a week. I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. He wanted to offer to make dolls, to make the figurines, and the sky was the limit. I couldn't sleep that night thinking that I was going to give him a chance to make me an offer. And I knew it would be very, very generous, astronomical, but that's not where my head was at that point. So I called the secretary the next morning, and I said, look, just tell Vince it's Ray Rougeau. I said, I couldn't sleep all night just thinking that I might continue on the road. I said, just tell him, thanks for the generosity, but I want to go home. I want him to leave it at that. Please respect that. So the thing was, before we got that big push that he was going to give us, I quit the ring. And finally, he found a way to keep me because he asked me to be a commentator, and I stayed for another 13 years that way. But I wasn't traveling as much. But that's about the figurines, that's why, because we left prematurely. If we would have continued, we would have gone to the top, had the tag team belts, all that, and he would have made the figurines. But I left prematurely. But actually, I was approached by Hasbro this spring, and Hasbro are going to make figurines of the Fabulous Rougeau brothers. So, because we made an agreement, signed the release, and we came to terms, and so they're going to be doing figurines of the Fabulous Rougeau brothers.
Oh, that'd be pretty sweet. I hope they come with the blue jackets.
Yeah, I hope so too. I haven't seen them yet, but like I said, we have come to an agreement, and we signed the documents and everything, so that is a done deal. And they sent me the deposit, they sent me a check and all that, so everything is done deal. So it's a matter of time. They're putting everything together, and so there will be figurines eventually.
Mm-hmm. Do you yourself still have the blue jacket?
Actually, no.
Oh, no.
I had them up until 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 years ago, all of a sudden, I got into one of my, time to clean out, and I burnt them, actually.
Oh.
I sat down and I washed them because I knew my wrestling career's over, and so I said, it's time to put that to rest. I went out in my backyard, made a nice fire, and I sat and I put that in, and I burnt it. I said, well, it's like saying goodbye to, like the last goodbye to it.
Yeah. You should have put it on eBay.
Yeah, I could have. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, it was more like a symbolic thing.
Yeah, but exactly. And I had I burnt the jacket and I burnt the capes. Remember we had the capes as the Fabulous Rougeau brothers?
Oh, yeah.
So I burnt both of them at the same time. But like I said, it was, I don't know, it was like part of my life, and I just wanted to give it a burial.
Mm-hmm. I understand. That's pretty cool. But I want to thank you for coming on tonight. It's been an awesome interview.
Hey, It's been a pleasure, and best of luck to your show, and I'll be listening to you guys.
Excellent. Currently, right now, the website's a little, we have a little server issue, so it's not as pretty as it usually looks, but you can still listen to all the shows.
Okay, can you give it to me? I'm going to write it down.
Yeah, it's, or I can email it to you. But it's inyourheadonline.com. Inyourheadonline.com.
Online.com. Good. I'll check that.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Can we keep you here just for a second?
Hey, this is Brett the Hitman Hart, and you're listening to InYourHeadOnline.com.